Please.
Uh, our next lecture is on AI and metaphysical personhood by Dr. Amara Esther Chimakonam, who is a researcher at the Center for African Phenomenology at the University of Fort Hare in South Africa. Dr. Chimakonam, if you're ready, the floor is yours. Thank you. Please unmute your microphone.
Yeah. Okay,
All
I
right.
hope you can all hear me now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much to the moderator for this beautiful introduction. And thank you also to the Conversational School of Philosophy for giving me the opportunity to be one of the instructors in this summer school. So today we'll be looking at artificial intelligence and metaphysical personhood in African philosophy. My aim in this lecture is to inspire us to think about metaphysical personhood and AI, and how AI could redefine our understanding of what it means to be a person. So the following are my objectives. First is to introduce us to the intersection of metaphysical personhood and AI. The second is to investigate whether AI would modify, challenge, or align with our understanding of metaphysical personhood. And the final objective is to motivate us to do further research on the intersection of artificial intelligence and metaphysical personhood from African philosophical concept and context. So this is how this lecture will flow. In the first part of the lecture, I'll give an introduction to AI. The second part will be an overview of metaphysical personhood. The third part will look at the intersection of AI and metaphysical personhood. So we'll start with the first task, which is a brief introduction to AI. In the previous lecture before this one, Dr. Shegu did a wonderful job in introducing us to AI, the meaning of AI, basic concepts and basic themes in AI, the history of AI, and some of the basic questions raised in AI, and also some. So I'm not going to overlabor the subjects here. I'll simply go on to define AI as any machine that has the ability to act, think, or behave like humans. So generally speaking, there are two types of AI. The first one is the weak AI, also known as artificial narrow intelligence. The second one is the strong AI, also known as general artificial intelligence. So the weak AI is any machine that has the ability to perform human cognitive tasks in a specific domain. Take, for instance, the self-driving car. It takes us to our destination. But when you remove the self-driving car from its context and place it on another context, maybe in a classroom to be a teacher, you find out that it will not function there. And this brings us to the strong AI. The strong AI is any machine that has the ability to perform human cognitive tasks in different domains. So why in the literature it has been said that some of the AI systems we have now are narrow AI or weak AI. Some still anticipate that one day we will get to having strong AI. However, our main concern in this lecture is strong AI, which is also associated with technological singularity. what is this technological singularity? Technological singularity is an imaginary stage, like in the future, there will be a period where technology will become so intelligent that they will start to create better and better versions of themselves until they get to what is called intelligent explosion. So the outcome of this intelligent explosion is super intelligence. So super intelligence, according to Nick Bostrom, is any intellect that greatly exceeds human cognitive performance in all domains of interest. So you are talking about problem solving, you are talking about education, you are talking about in all areas of interest. So that is it. Now, a question we might want to pose at this point is, would AI attain metaphysical personhood as they gain more and more capacities? Our response to these questions depends on our understanding of metaphysical personhood in African philosophy. And this leads us to the second task in this lecture. So here we'll be looking at an overview of metaphysical personhood in African philosophy. Personhood has been extensively discussed in African philosophy. There is often this demarcation between metaphysical personhood and moral personhood. Moral personhood within the literature is seen as the process, the process of becoming morally virtuous individuals in the society. Within the literature in African philosophy, much attention has been paid to the intersection of moral personhood and artificial intelligence. But little or no attention has been paid to the intersection of metaphysical personhood and artificial intelligence. And this makes this lecture very important, because also within the literature, I mean to say, on metaphysical personhood in African philosophy, it is said that the metaphysical personhood is the foundation of moral personhood. So it is important for us to know the metaphysical status of AI systems before we start to consider their moral status. Remember in the first day of this summer school that Professor Malefe did a great job in unpacking the concept of personhood in African philosophy. So here I'm not going to dive into details on it. But while looking at the literature on personhood, I noticed that scholars are trans. The first question is for metaphysical personhood. This is often framed as, what are those ontological attributes that would differentiate a human being from other entities? Look at what we have here. You will see, let's take ON as ontological attributes. Let's take H as human beings. Let's take EC as entities or creatures. So scholars are trying to investigate what are these ontological attributes that when you bring them, they will say, this is what differentiates humans from other entities or creatures. We'll come back to this later. Another question that scholars are trying to consider is being a human being a necessary condition for metaphysical personhood? So here scholars are trying to investigate whether other entities could possess metaphysical personhood. Also within the literature, I observe that there are two extreme positions that try to respond to the questions we raised above. The first approach is the human-centered approach. The human-centered approach claims that being a human being is a sufficient condition for personhood. So in this context, personhood is endowed by virtue of you being born a human. So take for instance, look at what we have here. All H are persons. Therefore, if you are H, then you are a person. Now look at the table here. You will see under person, you see human beings and ancestors. Under non-person, you see animals, plants, objects, gods, and spirits. But it will interest us to know that proponents of this human-centered approach do not agree on universal ontological attributes that an entity would possess that will now say that, oh, this entity is a person. Take, for instance, Kwasi Werendu and Kwemejechiu, while trying to account for the concept of a person in Akan ontology. They pointed out that three components are what make up a person. And these components are Okra, the life-giving entity. We have the Napadua, which is the body, and we have the Samson, which is the soul, or that which gives a person's personality. I'm not going to dive into the disagreements between these scholars on some of these elements, but one thing is clear that three elements are what make up a person. But this is, however, different from what we have in Yoruba ontology. According to Shegu Bedegashin, four components are what make up a person. We have number one, Ara, which is the body, similar to Nepadua in Akan's ontology. The second one is the Emi, which is life-giving entity, also similar to Okra in Akan's ontology. The third one is the Ori, which has two different meanings. Sometimes it's called the physical head, sometimes it's called destiny. The last one is the Okan, which also has two different meanings. Sometimes it's called the physical organ or source of emotion. So here we have four components in Yoruba ontology, and there we have three components in Akan's ontology. However, the similarity that lies within the human-centered approach is that both physical and non-physical elements are what make up a person. So physical elements like the body and non-physical elements like the soul. So a person within this human-centered approach must constitute physical and non-physical elements. Let's go to the second approach, which is the participatory approach. Excuse me. The participatory approach claims that being a human being is a necessary condition for personhood and not a sufficient condition. This is because personhood is endowed by one's ability to participate in a relationship, such as interaction of vital forces and having the capacity for relationship. For instance, if we say that all entities with F ability are persons, therefore, if T has F ability, then T is a person. Placid Tempels, why accounting for the concept of a person in Bantu's ontology. He started with the idea of being and says that being is force and that everything that exists, they are force. And there are hierarchy of these forces. At the apex, you see God, followed by founders of the clans, followed by ancestors, spirits, human beings, animals, plants, and objects and minerals. He also says that these forces differ in degree. So God has higher force than the founders of the clans. Just like that, you get to the bottom occupied by objects and minerals. Another important thing to note is that temples emphasize a relationship between these forces. So there is a kind of relationship between God, founders of the clans, ancestors, spirits, human beings, animals, plants, and objects. He made it clear that here on earth, that vital force is supreme in human beings. And the reason he gave for this is that it is only human beings that could tap the strength of other creatures. So in a way, we will say that human being is at the center of the universe. But another crucial point that Tempels made is to differentiate human beings from personhood. So you are not a person according to Tempels because you are born of a human being. Personhood involves active engagement in this interaction of forces. So that is how human beings become persons, by actively involving and playing their role in the interaction of forces and also within the social context they find themselves. Similarly, John Beatty, also while accounting for the concept of a person in Bantu ontology, pointed out that it is only by incorporation into the community that one could become a person. So such individual would say, I am because we are. This importance of relationship is key to the participatory approach. So at this point, we want to raise the question that we raised earlier. Would AI attain metaphysical personhood as it gains more and more capacities, or as it reaches super intelligence? We will look at this question from the two approaches we explained above. So from the human-centered approach, one will say that the response would be no. AI will not attain metaphysical personhood because AI is not a person. So another point here is that they might consider AI as a tool for accomplishing our tasks. Look at the drawing here before you here. I hope you enjoy the drawing. So you will see a carpenter holding his saw. You will see a farmer with his hoe, and you see a driverless car. So within this human-centered approach, AI is a tool just like a carpenter's saw, in which he uses to maybe cut some wood to make a table, or a farmer's hoe, in which he uses to cultivate his land to plant his seeds. This is how the driverless car, for example, takes us to our destination. So In this context, AI is a tool and should not be considered further than it's been a tool. But is there any problem with this approach, with this response? Do you think that the concept of AI actually challenges this response or modify it? Maybe we should take this scenario to, pack our thoughts together in order to be able to answer that question. Take, for instance, that you listening to me now, you strongly believe that metaphysical personhood should only be applied to human beings. Imagine that one hot afternoon in July 2025, as shown in this diagram A here, you now decided to go to the beach, as shown in diagram B here, to relax, cool off, and nap. Suppose that while you are at this beach, you are falling asleep, and during your sleep, you are quietly carried to a room, as shown in diagram C here, where you were plugged into a time machine. And this time machine transported you to the year 2080, as shown in diagram D here. The year 2080 is the year of intelligent explosion, where AI is now conscious, autonomous, and even more intelligent. Let us suppose that your life in this diagram D, in this era of intelligent explosion, starts with you waking up at the beach. And after a while, you decided to have a conversation with your neighbor, this your neighbor here. And you people had so many conversations, from politics to education and rest of them. And finally, you people came to sports. You start arguing which team will win the 2080 AFCON Cup. Then you made a passionate argument for Team South Africa, saying that Team South Africa is the team that will win the AFCON tournament because they have won it 3 times. And this your neighbor here countered and said, no, I don't think so. Because the Team South Africa that came for this 2080 AFCON tournament is not the same team that won it 3 times now. They lacked team spirit. They don't have strong defense. They don't have good midfielders and rest of them. So your neighbor made a passionate argument for Team Senegal, and it marshaled its arguments that Team Senegal has a good goalkeeper, great midfielders, and 3 good strikers, and even a strong defense. That Team Senegal also has the team spirit needed to win the AFCON tournament. So by the end of your conversation with your neighbor, you had no doubt in your mind that this your neighbor here, is an intelligent person. So let's now imagine further that you now wanted to know this your neighbor more. You want to know your neighbor more, and maybe perhaps become a friend with your neighbor, and you now introduce yourself formally, handed out your complimentary card. So your neighbor wants to reciprocate and introduce itself as artificial intelligence, named omniscience. The question now becomes, with this new knowledge about your neighbor, would you still consider omniscience as a person? So I'm thinking about this narrow takes us back to the question, would this narrow challenge the human-centered approach that AI systems would not attain metaphysical personhood? Or would it ask us to modify it a little? So I would like to know your thought on this after this lecture. Think about it, then we can have a conversation on it when the lecture is over. So let's go to the second approach and see what their response will be to the question of whether AI would attain personhood as it gains more and more capacities. So I'm sorry, I didn't go to the right slide. So from the participatory approach, the answer would be yes. Remember that the participatory approach gave us two criteria for metaphysical personhood, which is vital force and capacity for relationship. Now, let's see whether AI systems would meet this criteria. The first is the vital force. Now, let's go back to Tempels. Tempels say that everything that exists is one way or the other a vital force. And this includes artificial intelligence systems. So you see that now they have passed the first criteria. But what of the second one? Do they have the capacity for communal relationship or for relationship? One would also say yes, they do. Because some of the AIs we have now, the narrow AI, are already showing this capacity for relationship. A few examples of this are the robot sex workers or AI sex workers. Recently in Germany, there's a AI brothel in Germany. There are AI companions, AI nurses, AI robot cares. These are AI robots or that are having relationship with humans and other entities around them. But this also leaves us with another question which I will use to end this lecture. So if AI now attains, if we now have a strong AI or artificial super intelligence AI that will now have a greater capacity for relationship. Remember that super intelligence is the idea that a machine will have an ability that greatly supersedes human cognitive performance in all domains of interest. So would strong AI have higher metaphysical personhood than human beings as it reaches super intelligence? This is another question I'm leaving us with to think about. And I want to say thank you very much for listening. I look forward to your questions, contributions, and comments, and let the conversation begin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chimakonam, for your lecture. We'll now open up the floor for questions and comments on the lecture. If you have your questions ready, please raise your hands. And if you want to make comments or addition to the lecture, you're free to do so. All right, go, Christy.
So my first question would be, to attain moral personhood, what is required, right? I know that when Thad Med speaks about moral personhood, he includes things like you have to be capable of taking part in the rituals of the community. So when we are speaking about this higher moral personhood of super intelligence, are we including that not only is it language and intelligence, whatever that means, but that it also takes part in human communal relationships? So what are the key features that the super intelligence would have to attain moral person, the second kind of personhood? Is it only intelligence, or is it also participatory kind of communion with the community? That would be my question.
All right, over to you, Dr. Chimakonam.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy, for your question. Okay, thank you for your question. First of all, yeah, I try to keep to metaphysical personhood. But coming to your question, what would be? Remember that super intelligence definition is any intellect that greatly supersedes human cognitive performance in all domains. So these all domains that we are talking about within the African context will also include rituals. It also includes all these processes, as Menkiti will say, the process of moving from an it to an it.
Okay.
So it also includes all these processes because here we are anticipating it as an anticipation. It is a speculation. We are anticipating that a super intelligent machine would greatly supersede us in all domains of interest. And if this is true, as proponents of this super intelligence like Venovenge, Ray Kurzweil, and Nick Bostrom have said, that means AI would actually attain metaphysical personhood.
So, so
I
that would
hope
mean,
that is
yeah,
clear.
that answers it. Also, I really enjoyed the lecture, by the way. But that would mean that it would have to be embodied, right? It would have to be a kind of like a humanoid robot with artificial intelligence to be able to take part in human communal relationships, or not necessarily.
How did you get that?
Um, this embodied AI. We are talking about recently NBC did an interview where they tried to interview people that keep AI as boyfriends. These are not physical AI robots. These are virtual boyfriends and girlfriends. So you find that AI, whether embodied or disembodied, would attain metaphysical personhood, especially when you look at it from the aspect of mind uploading, where you also have to upload someone's memories and personalities and rest of them onto a computer. So I think that in a way answers your question.
All right, thank you, Francis.
Thank you very much. I want to ask if it is possible for intelligence to transcend biology, because I know that emotional intelligence and other forms of intelligence has a lot to do with our neurons and the neural chemicals in the body, like the dopamine. Is it possible to replicate exactly that which nature has given to man in machines? When you talk about having robots, because you can't just leave the idea of the physical parts affecting the spiritual, or so to say, because the neural chemicals have a lot. Can we replicate? Can we have artificial neurons, neurochemicals that will work exactly as the human biological system. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Francis. This is really an important question. So I'll start by saying that within the within the African metaphysical context or worldview, that's when you even talk about reality. Reality is not just the physical reality you are looking at. It also includes the non-physical reality, where entities like God, ancestors and spirits and rest of them live. So that brings us to the question of whether AI, if we really consider non-physical reality as reality, then why can't we also consider disembodied AI as being real? Coming to your question of whether we can, whether AI system could have the same kind of human intelligence that we have, that is the speculation. That is what the proponents of strong AI anticipate. They want to build AI that could imitate us in different by performing our cognitive tasks in different domains, like problem solving. But when you now go to super intelligence AI, is another higher game on its own. So you are not talking about machines that will now supersede us, greatly exceed our cognitive performance. Because how would they do that? Is from, are you not seeing the movement from narrow to strong, then strong to super intelligent machine? So how do they do that? It's by imitating us, by the designers and developers of AI trying to create AI that could imitate human intelligence, as Dr. Samuel also mentioned during his lecture. So thank you.
All right. Thank you for your response. Techno.
Thank you Patrick, for your moderation, and I must thank a wonderful lecture. It's quite insightful. But I will start by saying that metaphysical personhood, for me, is not that possible. Why? When we talk about the human person, it's not only the participatory aspect, because we emphasize more on participatory aspect. Remember that AI is a mere imitation. It's a human being that gives birth to it. Whether it becomes a super intelligent or whatever, when we talk about intelligent explosion or what, it can never negate the fact that it's born out of human being. And when you come to the aspect of trying to answer the last question from the immaterial aspect of existence, like ancestors and all that, remember that before they became ancestors, they were once human beings, born of a woman, so to speak. Right? So that dichotomy of that human person and that participatory aspect, that divide is a serious contention that can make the possibility of AI being attaining that metaphysical personhood, so to speak. Because that divide, the two of them for me must be there for that metaphysical personhood. Because we are once a human being, and then begin to talk about the intelligence. And that we can't just simply say because of the idea of the intelligence alone, removing it away from the other, they begin to emphasize that and they say that they can attain that. For me, for one to attain that metaphysical personhood is the combination of the two. I don't know your take on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'm very happy that you started with born out of human being. So you said that humans, ancestors were born out of human beings, died before they became ancestors. So the same also goes for AI. Is AI not born out of human beings? Is it not a creation of human beings?
So I mean, biologically born, not just a mere creation, not by being manufactured. Is the coming to the biological process of giving birth. That's what I mean by Yes, not just something coming out of human being by manufacturing, being manufactured artificially.
Okay. At least you made the difference clear. But
Okay.
in the literature, it has also been claimed that when you talk about AI, it's just an imitation of how the human brain works. The neural networks is just like an artificial brain. And if AI is an artificial brain and it is a creation of human being, then why won't they attain metaphysical personhood? Remember that the participatory personhood, I talked about two approaches and two answers to the questions that would AI attain metaphysical personhood, and we looked at that question from the two approaches I discussed. Now, why the human-centered approach said no, the participatory approach said yes, that being a human is not a necessary condition for metaphysical personhood. So you will find that in this context that following the criteria, we have a criteria here with what we can call personhood schema. Following the participatory criteria that says vital force and capacity for relationship, our question is, do AI satisfy these criteria? That is the point I'm making. So it is debatable. You can disagree, no matter how we argue on it. But in as much as AI meets this criteria, they could say to have metaphysical personhood. We have seen how they met the criteria of vital force and the capacity for relationship. So that is the point I'm trying to make. But it is a debate that we should continue having a conversation on, and even write papers on it to, broaden the discourse and rest of them.
All right, thank you, Mara, for
Okay,
your
thank you very much.
response.
Maybe when we get over to the Slack, you can finish the conversation.
All right, so any more questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question.
Who's that? Okay, Chibuzo, please go ahead.
I want to thank you, Mrs. Samara, for that wonderful lecture. Please, I want you to look at the area of self-awareness when it comes to this artificial intelligence, because from my understanding thus far, you saying from the analogy you gave that by 2080 we will see this AI becoming super intelligent. So I will see that from the concept of Aristotle, potency and actuality. So you're trying to make us understand that by so and so time in our existence, or maybe in the existence to come, that AI must have achieved a particular level of intelligence, which therefore becomes my first question. Can anytime AI, we have self-awareness as that which is peculiar to a metaphysical personhood? Since if you should go back to the work of Pantaleon, looking at the characteristics of the person, can we say that AI will fit in that explicit narration that Regbo was trying to make? I think that should just be the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing this issue of machine self-awareness. So the scenario I gave is just for us to think about the future, and whether as some people some people have envisioned in the field, that it will get to a point where AI would be self-aware, they would be conscious and autonomous and even more intelligent.
No, sorry, ma. When we say
And
this,
what happens at that stage if we... Okay, you can
no,
continue.
sorry, ma. I just wanted to chip in something. When we talk about self-awareness, it encompasses, it goes beyond consciousness. It has to do with behavior and so. so that this AI, if you look at the metaphysical human personhood, we are a multi-relational being, whereby we can do so many things at a time. Let's use an African woman as a case study. A mother cooking at the same time, cautioning a child, carrying out some assignments, selling at the same time, trying to settle a dispute. Can AI fit? That is the idea of self-awareness. Can any robot or any generated device do all of these that a human person can do at a particular time? That is my main question. Looking at it from a behavioral, psychological perspective that encompasses consciousness and also the human physical ability to do things. Thank you.
And that's what I'm saying. I think we need to go back to our difference between weak AI and strong AI and artificial super intelligent AI. So I think there is a little confusion here or a little bit of mix-up here. When you talk about narrow AI, that is not possible, as I mentioned in the talk, because they are specialists in a particular domain. You cannot, recently they have a AI school in London. So if you remove those AI, their teachers, if you remove them from that teaching environment and maybe bring them to the markets where they have to sell tomatoes and pepper, you'll find that they won't function there because that is not what they are trained to do. But this is somehow different from the strong AI that is the main concern of our lecture today. So the strong AI is a machine that would have the ability to perform human cognitive tasks in different domains, just like you explained. For example, an AI could maybe be drinking a cup of tea and talking to a friend, or maybe doing a research and also washing clothes, doing multitasking. That is the anticipation here. And when you now move to that super intelligent AI, you find out that they even perform much better than humans because they became so uh, narrow AI. It is not possible. But when you talk about strong AI, this is what the designers of AI are trying to reach, are trying to get to create a machine that can multitask like us, to create a machine that will be self-aware like us, that will be conscious and autonomous like us. More autonomous because some narrow artificial intelligence are autonomous, like the self-driving car is being driven by itself. So that is the point here, and that is what I want us to get. I hope this gives you a better picture of where the whole attending metaphysical personhood argument we presented here is coming from.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you for that response. Any more question or comment? Do we have any more questions or comments on the lecture? Okay, I think we have something in the comment section here. From Ivan, which is my question is from a policy perspective. Given that we have cultural differences in how to conceptualize personhood, how can we create a global and common approach to regulate, govern, or legislate advanced AI models like AGI or superintelligence if we ever achieve them?
This is also an interesting question, although it's not focused on metaphysical personhood and AI, but I would also want to say something about it. In the literature, it has been pointed out that the current global governance landscape is a kind of unequal because you have the laws governing AI from the so-called also some part of global north, like global south, sorry, like China and rest of them. Why the other parts of the global south are being left out, their ideas, their ethical principles and rest of them are being left out. So there have been this serious call in the literature that there should be a global kind of governance that is exclusive. And that is what led to this UNESCO's recommendations on ethics of AI. I think it was published in 2021. I'm not sure of the year again, that they try to, bring different principles from different backgrounds to come up with a guiding ethical principles for AI. But more still need to be done. And that is why we are here. More voices from Africa, from other parts of the world need to come into play, because this is how the values embedded in our different cultures could be brought into the global space and become relevant in the discussion of global AI governance. And I hope this answers the question. Or do you want to follow up?
No, thank you. That answers my question.
All right, any more question or comments?
Okay, Ben, I have one. It's not actually a question for me.
Okay.
A question for the audience. During the lecture, I posed a question, think that such a scenario challenges the human-centered approach to whether AI would attain metaphysical personhood. Given the new information about your neighbor, do you think that omniscience is a person? I want to hear our views on this. Do you think it will challenge or modify the human-centered approach?
All right, any response from the audience? All right, Francis.
Thank you. I think it will, because there will be a change of pedagogy and even a serious paradigm shift. Because even the definition of consciousness is even taking a serious turn. The way we perceive reality is changing. I think it was a professor that lectured yesterday, or it was the first day. He mentioned something about the African personhood, that we should try to include not just the a priori, but also look at the a posteriori aspect of personhood. Now, I think once AI gets to this super intelligence or ultra intelligence, according to Kuzwe, a lot of things will change. Even our concept of God, as you asked, it will change, because the level after super artificial intelligence, I think I saw somewhere that AI will somehow attain God level, where AI will play God, when it will be almost in charge of everything that humans are doing. You can even check it from now. Most primary school, secondary school, university students, when you ask them to write, they basically depend on AI, chat box. So if we keep on increasing our dependency on these machines, they will play God. And with the discoveries that have been made, archaeological discoveries that have been assisted by AI, interpretation of foreign language and extinct languages and symbols, you will find out that even the Neolithic periods and the Paleolithic period can be grasped. They can be, with surety, you can talk about them. And even the existence of the universe can also somehow be proven. So where is the place of God in that? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Francis.
Yeah, thank you, Francis, for your contribution. It also reminds me about an issue that I've been going on, among scholars about human being is excludes so many entities from it. So when you talk about human being, you're using it to a kind of say that this entity is not a human being because this entity doesn't look like us or doesn't have this and these qualities like us. And it takes my mind back to colonialism in Africa. Try to say that Africans are not human beings. It is only the colonizers that are human beings. And an implication of this is that what we call human beings are just social constructs. It is ideological. So this might change when AI gets to that point where we now have a strong AI or maybe super intelligent AI. It might begin to challenge these ideas that being a human being is a sufficient condition for personhood. I think in one of my papers on the ethics at the intersection of transhumanism and artificial intelligence, I try to look at this problem from an ethical perspective and anticipate some of the problems that this might pose. These AIs might become higher than us. Imagine now we are giving our freedom of thought to AI, as you pointed out. When some students are being given assignments, they take it to ChatGPT to write for them. The only thing we have for free is our freedom of thought. And now we are losing it to AI systems. Now imagine what happens when we get to that period or that stage of super intelligence AI. And that is my little take on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more comments?
There is a question at the chat box. I think I saw one on the chat.
Yeah, let's see. More like, okay, yeah, Yusuf is asking, humans exemplify intelligence. Exemplification is a natural relation. Tomatoes exemplify redness. Humans exemplify intelligence. So intelligence is natural. If machines exemplify human intelligence and if human intelligence is natural, then machines exemplify intelligence that is natural. Thus, artificial intelligence is rather natural. So, do you think machines are persons? That's his question.
Yeah, quite interesting. I will not want to start to dive into the debate on can you actually differentiate what is natural from what is not? Like when you talk about the virtual reality and rest of them. But if machines could imitate human intelligence, then it will get to a point that we will consider them as persons. because they are imitating human intelligence. This is different from a stone. A stone cannot imitate human intelligence. But the AI systems we are talking about here are being designed every day. They are improving to imitate the way we think, the way we behave, the way we act. The DeepSeek from China, you see how good it is. So they are improving seriously. Every day you wake up, you see great improvements. And if this improvement continues, if this rapid development in the field of artificial intelligence continues, we will get to that age of AI. We'll get to that point where we will have them. Nobody is certain. We are not certain whether we will actually get there. I am not certain whether we will actually get there because nobody knows tomorrow. But if we get there and they meet the criteria for metaphysical personhood within the African philosophical context, we will not deny them of personhood because they act like us. So in a way, we are saying that any machine that could look like us and act like us is a person. This is similar to Alan Turing's imitation game, where he says that for you to know a machine that is intelligent is a machine that could, deceive or fool a human judge into believing that he or she is having a conversation with another human. So that is what we are saying here. If we get to that stage and we now have AI systems, whether embodied or disembodied, that behaves, acts, and things like us, then you can't deny them personhood. And that is the point from the participatory approach. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mar, for that response. I don't know if there are other comments, but in the meantime, I think I have a little comments to add to the discussion. So first, it concerns this issue of what is a person, and therefore, without the biological characteristics, we cannot give due to machines as being persons. So let me just tease out a little thought experiment. So imagine I am in a hospital bed. I have let's say, a kidney problem. I have been anesthetized, and after anesthesia, I'm no longer sedated. I'm not aware of what is happening. Few minutes later, a doctor walks into the hospital, performs the kidney transplant. It is successful. 2 days later, I am awake, and I was told the surgery was performed by Dr. Ben. And then, unbeknownst to me, that Dr. Ben is a robot, I'm not aware. 2 weeks later, I am okay to get back on my feet. I go back home. I tell my family, Dr. Ben did excellent job. The operation was successful. And then I started telling people, if you want to get your kidney transplant, go to social medical center. All this unbeknownst to me, the doctor in question is not a human being. So, if a month later, 2 months later, I am informed that actually Dr. Ben is not a human being, Dr. Ben is a robot, is an artificial agent, how does that change my conception of who Dr. Ben is? Does Dr. Ben automatically cease being a doctor because it's artificial, or being a person because all through my lifetime, my notion of who a doctor is has been a human being and all that. So the whole debate about who is a person, who qualifies into being regarded as conscious and aware and all that, doesn't it have something to do with this cultural association, cultural initiation into a certain way of viewing certain characteristics, where if this thing has been shown to me to be this all throughout my lifetime, no matter whatever entity performs that same duties, that same function, I am not going to think that that entity qualifies into being integrated into this particular category because I have been told all through my life that it is only people in this particular characteristics that fit into this category. So if machines perform everything a human being can do and sometimes better, and at the end of the day, we say, well, we've been told all through our life that only people who grow hairs, you grow taller in height and all that, who die are the people that qualify for personhood and all that, then it seems to be a product of our cultural and associations of ideas, machines in themselves. And then the argument that was raised by, I think, is it the person with techno, was that biology plays some sort of function. If you are not biologically given birth to, then there is a problem. You cannot become a person. And then if I lose two of my legs in an accident, my arms, and that gets replaced, and I can still then use my hand, the artificial hand, call it that. Uh, and then also, let's have a kidney problem that gets replaced. I have a heart problem that gets replaced. If you replace 70 to 80% of my body parts and I'm still functioning, do I cease to be a person since I have lost most of my biological characteristics? So there is something fundamentally cultural about this notion of personhood, why we keep thinking machines can fall into this category rather than something about performing certain functions, meeting certain standards, and then also being a product of biological evolution. Thank you. That's my little comment.
Thank you. It's quite an interesting comment. The scenario you painted is similar to the one I painted during my lecture. And I think in a way it's all depends on the way we think, and that is the main focus of some scholars that are trying to decenter humanity, like the posthumans, not the transhumanist posthumans, but we have these posthumans that are saying that we have always been cyborgs. All our lives, we have always been cyborgs. So why should we be differentiating and calling ourselves we are unique from other entities when all of us belong to the same category? So and this also raises his own questions and the rest of them. So it is our thinking that sometimes conditions us to say that this is not a person. This is almost half of part of their body replaced by one robot aesthetics or the other. But they will also call them humans. Why is it that AI-powered robots, like the preacher in Germany, they call it bless you? Why can't we consider bless you? Bless you is a preacher. Why can't we consider bless you as a person? Bless you does everything that other preachers do. Even have AI monk in China. Why can't we consider such a monk as a person? When it leads prayer, it does a lot of things. It even connects people spiritually. So you find out that it also comes from how we think, and is by unlearning some of the things we have learned about ourselves and about our world that will start helping us to, be open-minded into reconsidering this concept of metaphysical personhood in this lecture, to start to envision how it would be extended to other entities other than a human being. And that is something we all should think about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chimakonam, and thank you to all those who participated in the conversation for your comments and your questions. I think on that note, we've come to the end of the second edition of the CSP Summer School. And I want to immensely thank all the lecturers who showed up. And I believe we've learned one, two, three, or so many things over the course of the past 3 days. It's been an absolute pleasure to see so many people turn up, and I really appreciate your presence. We appreciate your time. And I think for the closing remark, sorry, Dr. Amara Chimakonam, I'll have to give you another responsibility to give us a closing remark and vote of thanks from the Conversational School of Philosophy. Thank you.
On behalf of the Conversational School of Philosophy, I want to say thank you to all the lecturers for their wonderful, thought-provoking, interesting lectures. I also want to say thank you to the participants for their contribution, comments. Without you, this summer school would not have been a success. And thank you to the moderators for the job well done. And also thank you to the organizers for organizing this summer school. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next CSP summer school. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, don't forget to stay connected on the Slack platform. You can send materials, share materials, network with others, or even further the conversation on the Slack channel. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.